Hello, we've been asked by a student for a little bit more clarification on the representation and the presentation that you're going to be making next week. So I'm going to go over a few points that I made during the admin assessment lecture and also during the workshop a few weeks ago. So firstly, you're going to present an area of learning that you've encountered at some point in your life. This could be something like learning to drive, playing a new sport. It might be part of your academic learning or any other learning that's really significant to you. You're going to present that learning in the form of a presentation, but you're going to have a representation which is a physical object, if you like, that will help you when you're telling that story. So the representation can be anything. It could be a sculpture, it might be a picture, and if you remember in my lecture I showed you a series of pictures that I used as an example. It could be a piece of poetry or a song. You might want to do some role play. You could do a poster or some kind of media presentation. Whatever you use is up to you, so it's your chance to be creative, something that engages the audience, and that's going to help you tell the audience about your learning that has taken place. The presentation itself shouldn't be any more than about 5 minutes long, and it needs to focus on how you learn, so your development, what you learnt through, so i.e. it may be play, it may be talk, it may be imagination, it may be a combination of those, or an area within those things. So, for example, I showed you a picture of my learning when I was learning history, and one of the pictures showed children playing on a beach, and they were interacting and they were laughing, and it was very practical. And I used that as a way of showing that actually when I thought about my learning, it was very practical and it was very social, and it did relate very much to Vygotsky's theory of social constructivism. There was also lots of play, but not play in the sense that we've perhaps as adults have come to know it. It was a lot of experiential experiences, so hands-on, trying new things out, playing with ideas and playing with objects. The other example that I gave you was a student who was showing her learning, but particularly focusing on her emotions, and her example was a tree, and it was a 3D tree, and that was set against a picture that was of a tunnel. And she described her learning as starting off going through the tunnel, and this tunnel was quite enclosed and it was quite dark and it was very long and there was no way back, so the only way actually was forward, and that she had to move quickly through this tunnel, and it was very bland and very scary for her. When she got out of at the end of the tunnel, she then had a tree, and the tree was very dark and very bare at the bottom, and she'd showed it that where all the branches were kind of entwined and tangled and you couldn't really see through them, and she used that to represent what the learning kind of felt like at the time. And as you kind of, your eye was drawn up towards the top of the tree started to spread out and the branches spread out, and they also changed colour till at the end of the trees you just saw the tips of the green leaves coming through, and that was her kind of example or illustration of the enlightenment that she found at the end of that learning journey. So you can do something similar, but obviously you're focusing on play and talk and imagination and other forms of learning that you may have read about and you may have come across whilst you were doing your annotated bibliography. And we want you to include references to those within your presentation. If this was me, I would, and this isn't a set structure, but this would be my way of presenting. I would present, give a couple of minutes where I'm just setting the scene for the audience. So, where did this learning take place? How old was I? How long did it last? What was I doing? And then I would begin the main part of my learning, describing what happened, but also really focusing on the idea of how I learnt, what enabled me to learn, what motivated me, what types of play did I encounter during that, what have I learnt kind of since, by reflecting on that, what do I now know that perhaps at the time I didn't realise. And then just very briefly summing up at the end. The audience then will have a chance to ask you a couple of questions for about 2 minutes, and they will be providing you with some formative written feedback. Janet and I will also be watching your presentation, and we will offer you some verbal feedback, but we'll also be marking you according to the criteria on the grid that you have got, and you'll receive that at some point after all the presentations are completed. Thanks.